Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversation. It's the Friday edition of Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa, but that doesn't stop us from where we normally start our business, from the global oil space. And today, investors are still weighing the escalating tensions between the United States and Iran after Tehran regional infrastructure, if President Donald Trump follows through on that threat to strike the country's key facilities. International benchmark crude futures for September delivery, that's the one that's being tracked at this time. That's advanced 0.24%. The price is $84.38 a barrel. WTI has also increased 0.6%. It's at $79.42 a barrel. And then we see the difference here seems to be widening, 84 and 79, just about $5, $4 some cents right there. Yesterday it wasn't this much, talking about the gap between both commodities, but that's what we're seeing, and this is for September delivery, and we see that both oil contracts are up by 11% so far this week, and on track for the best weekly performance since late April. U.S. Central Command said overnight that it had completed its 6th consecutive night of strikes against Iran, hitting dozens of military logistics infrastructure and maritime capabilities. And the escalating standoff comes as the fragile truce reached last month was fractured, once again disrupting energy flows through the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, which typically handles about 20% of the world's oil traffic. Looking at our market, the local bourse here in Nigeria yesterday, another red close yesterday, 0.09% down for the all share index, 242,145.61, market cap at 156.20 trillion naira. At the close of trade, activity was mostly green, just deals less than 40. It's been a while since we saw less than 40,000 deals in a day, but yesterday we had 39,429. Top gains, first whole core seems to be retaining a place in the top gains. So once again, yesterday we saw it 9.96% up, and then Nichols and UBA is back up there in the eye of investors. Been a while outside the top 10 gains range. And then top losers, Unicel, Boa Cement. Boa Cement was a major market mover yesterday. I saw a lot of profit taker, because it's of its market cap, then whatever movement it has would affect the color of the market. So yesterday we saw it down 9.99% and to close at 275 naira 60. Copper cap also, CAP, also lost more than 9%. Top trades, Japan Gold, Access Co once again, and yes, First Whole Co. You have the big banks and then the big oil and gas guy also. They drove trades in the market yesterday. And still around the market, the Securities and Exchange Commission has launched a nationwide campaign. It's supposed to help investors to recover unclaimed dividends and boost participation in Nigeria's capital market. The initiative, they say, is to educate shareholders on the procedures for claiming outstanding dividends while encouraging them to update their records and enroll in the electronic dividends payment system. And I'll just take a minute to say that a lot of people have told me how, they have bought shares before the electronic era, and some of them, they still have a lot of papers, unclaimed dividends, and even to prove that they own these shares. Well, this is the opportunity that the Securities and Exchange Commission is giving, that you can turn those papers into your real shares now. And the market is doing well now, so it will be worth more than you thought. So please take up this call by the Securities and Exchange Commission, because they're saying the campaign will be carried out across the country through investor outreach programs, public awareness activities, and collaboration with registrars and other capital market stakeholders. The Commission notes that the initiative is expected to reduce the volume of unclaimed dividends, which we have a whole lot of, improve investor confidence, and enhance transparency and efficiency in the capital market. So if you still have those papers that you used for your stocks, you have one or two stock of different companies, this is the time to reactivate it and get captured in the recent data and claim your dividends. So please, let's make the most of this call by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has introduced a digital foreign exchange transaction tracker. It's for bureau de change operators, and it's part of new measures to improve transparency, accountability, and efficiency in the retail foreign exchange market. Under the new directive, all BDCs are required to record and report foreign exchange transactions through the digital platform, enabling the Apex Bank to monitor the purchase and sale of foreign currency in real time. The CBN is also mandating BDCs to resell any unused foreign currency purchased from authorized dealer banks within 24 hours. The bank says that the measure is designed to prevent speculation, hoarding, and round-tripping in the foreign exchange market. And still with the central bank, they say that the foreign exchange reforms, they've strengthened the country's external position, with net foreign reserves rising from about $3 billion to $40 billion. That's the net, while the gross reserve has hit $52 billion. The CBN governor, Mr. Laimi Cardoso, said this at the 14th Business Day CEO Forum that was in Lagos yesterday, and he said that the reserves are strategic buffers, not for day-to-day management.
Today, the liquidity of our foreign exchange market is such that it is really and truly allowing us to operate a system that it is truly a reserve, in the sense that buying and selling takes care all on its own, with minimum interference from the central bank. This, I don't believe, has happened for as long as I was in banking, because I remember in those days, everybody waited for the central bank to come in and intervene. And once they intervened, they went back to sleep. This is how our foreign exchange has operated all these years. But we have now moved beyond that. And what is the beauty of that? The beauty is where you have shocks, where you have unseen things that are likely to create huge volatility in your market, you have the wherewithal to come out and defend and do the right things to ensure that your currency stays stable.
And away from monetary, a lot of applause to our CBN governor and the team working with him. Of course, we've seen the numbers, so I guess whether you like it or not, you applaud what the monetary policy or monetary authorities doing in the country at this time. So the fiscal side, President Bola Tinubu has approved the extension of the fourth legacy highway by an additional 400 kilometers, and that's increasing the length of the strategic road corridor from about 700 kilometers to approximately 1,100 kilometers. The Minister of Works, Mr. David Umahi, announced this yesterday during a special media briefing, and he said that the president approved the reconstruction of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway with reinforced concrete pavement, as well as the completion of an abandoned EB bridge, that's in Taraba, and the construction of a 5.76-kilometer Lao Bridge and the dualization of additional 400 kilometers of the East-West Road. This was during a media briefing in Abuja, where Mr. Umahi described the approval as another milestone in the federal government's infrastructure renewal program, saying that they would improve national integration, boost economic activities, and strengthen regional connectivity. While, according to him, the latest approval further demonstrates Tinubu's commitment to delivering legacy infrastructure projects across all geopolitical zones. And while we're happy about this, we're also, being very skeptical, because Approving the project is one thing, seeing the project is another thing. But we're hopeful that it will be different this time around. Now, the House of Representatives has pledged to repeal obsolete laws hindering businesses, improve regulatory certainty, and reduce the cost of doing business as part of legislative efforts to attract investments, create jobs, and accelerate Nigeria's economic transformation. The commitment was made by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Representative Abbas Tajuddin, at the Legislative Business Breakfast that was held during the 2026 National Assembly Open Week in Abuja. The Speaker says that they're proposing a standing National Assembly and Business Executive Roundtable that's to strengthen engagement between lawmakers and the private sector. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, was there.
Please be seated as you put your hands together.
The Legislative Business Breakfast brought together lawmakers, including the leadership of the House of Representatives, members of the executive, organized private sector, and development partners to discuss legislative priorities for investment, competitiveness, and economic growth.
I know full well that
the meeting provided a platform for direct dialogue between lawmakers and the business community on ways to improve the business environment, attract investment, and support economic reforms.
We're here for you. We're elected.
The majority leader of the House of Representatives called for closer engagement between Parliament and the private sector, while the Executive Secretary of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center urged lawmakers to address insecurity and multiple taxation to improve the business environment.
We know it is when there is peace, when democracy thrives, that business will thrive. You cannot have development without growth. So that is why today we'll be looking at the business of growth.
I think it's so very important that this is something the government takes very seriously if we are to talk about improving the economy. People are not investing in this country simply, and I mean Nigerians, simply because of the level of insecurity in the country. Every agency of government thinks that its business is to go after businesses and tax them. I know there's been tax reforms. I know that there have been questions of harmonizing taxation. But if you look at even the most recent one, Minister of Education, saying that everybody who wants to sit for exams has to pay 50,000 naira, which is an incredible rise over what was happening. I know it's been set aside, but that seems to be the mindset of government agencies and parastatals to completely continue to tax businesses and constitute themselves into obstacles to progress of business in this country.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives reaffirmed the commitment of the House to repealing obsolete laws, improving the ease of doing business, and supporting private sector-led economic growth.
You did not invite me here to recite the past. You invited me to respond, and so I will, with 5 clear commitments. First, on regulatory clarity and legislative predictability, we commit that laws affecting businesses will be stable, transparent, and made within your input, so that no investor is ever ambushed by a rule they could not foresee. Second, on the cost of doing business, we will build on the tax reforms to harmonize levies across all tiers of government, so that one enterprise is not taxed to exhaustion by federal, state, and local authorities at the same time.
Stakeholders expressed confidence that closer collaboration between the National Assembly, the executive, and the private sector will strengthen investors' confidence and drive sustainable economic growth. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
A lot of promises there from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and once again, promises turned to action is what we do hope for. Now, let's continue on a conversation we started yesterday, looking at the health sector in Nigeria, the value chain, especially the local manufacturing in the healthcare value chain. And, we have had the presidential initiative on for unlocking healthcare value chain, PVAC. That's been on since this administration started, and recently I did get a lot of presentation on their achievements so far. And one of the achievements is supposed to be the area of localizing manufacturing. Well, yesterday we had good news from the MD CEO of Fitson. You know, he did say that we're doing 50-50 now, 50% local and 50% imported. We'll get more on that, as well as, you know, that a tax relief, tax waiver of 6 billion naira, which the federal government has offered to about 47 Nigerian manufacturers and all of that. But we'll drive that, as well as medical tourism. It's also one of the goals of that initiative, the presidential initiative, to reduce medical tourism. Are we on the path to reach that or not? We'll discuss all of this with the former chief physician to the vice president of Nigeria, Dr. Nicholas Odifren, joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Odifren, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Edie.
Great. So I know that you have been following the activities of the initiative, the presidential initiative. How would you rate the achievements so far? We have what they have told us, but let's hear from your own perspective.
I think that they've done quite well, given the time frame that has been in place. As you know, there are a lot of challenges within the sector, but a lot of also optimism also going on in the sector. A lot of times, government has always had a problem seeing healthcare as a business. They see it from the perspective of public sector. One thing I do like about this present dispensation is that for the first time, they are looking at healthcare as a business. Hence, you have PVAC. You know, in any business, what are the issues that we require? We're looking for cheap financing. We're looking for reduced bottlenecks within regulatory bodies. We want regulatory bodies to see us as partners. We're looking for a market which is already there. We have Nigeria, 230 million people. So what we need is intentionality and focus. And PVAC has shown itself over the last 3 years to be that kind of organization. I mean, they've put together easy funding. They've brought together technical assistance. They've brought together cheap finance for businesses. So it's not the final solution, but we're seeing some progress made from our usual attitude in government. I have to give kudos to them, and I have to give kudos to Dr. Mukhtar, who came from the private sector and understands that healthcare is a business.
So yesterday I had the Chief Executive Officer of Fitson Healthcare PLC, and I asked him when you look at the issue of local manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, how would you rate that? He said that 50% of what we're consuming now in the country is locally produced and 50% is imported. It used to be 70-30 against local production, but from where you sit, how would you rate it? What's the percentage?
I wouldn't disagree with the gentleman, but I would want to put a caveat there. As you know, health sector is a large sector. There are different components of the health sector. In some sectors, yes, especially pharmaceuticals, I'm not surprised that it's approaching 50%. But in other subsectors, I mean, local manufacturing is quite low, and these subsectors are also very, very important. This is a transition that started, that we started seeing, you know, just before COVID, and COVID accelerated it. We saw the vulnerabilities that can occur when there's a global shock, or when there's, actual, or whether it's deliberate or not, shortage of materials. We need to do local sourcing. So that process has started over the years. So he's right. It started off at 30% to 70%. Definitely it has gone up. I can't be sure whether it's 50, but I won't be surprised if it's 50. My last data was it was 35, but I'm not so surprised that in terms of pharmaceuticals, 50. But if you look at other sectors like vaccinations, medical devices, which are also components, that the input from local manufacturing is actually quite low, close to 0%.
Oh, not so good. But what about medical tourism? I've heard some good news from that aspect. I don't know if it's really true.
Well, medical tourism is actually something that I'm quite familiar with. I came from the private sector. and I've been, dealing with private sector. A lot of people don't really understand that the efforts to combat medical tourism started between 15 and 20 years ago. You have, hospitals and organizations that have been working steadily and gradually building up the facilities around it, ensuring hospital accreditation and all that stuff internally. So medical tourism is definitely improving. There was a time when the Indians were overwhelmingly taking over the medical tourism business, but you have hospitals like Evercare, Reddington Group, Lagoon and Co., who have clawed back a market share from them. And they've helped a lot of people, and a lot of people have used them as alternates to going abroad. Abroad being England, South Africa, and co. Is it perfect? Is it final? No, I wouldn't say so. But definitely, a lot of work has gone on in medical tourism over the last 15 years, 10 years, and it's a steady, gradual progression.
Is it true that the stories that we hear that some individuals who are residents abroad even come to Nigeria for medical care because of friendly costs and then head back? Are those stories true?
Very, very true. I can confirm that. Especially in certain fields that are very, 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 very obvious. Like, I'll give an example of a sector of a clinical field where you see a lot of that. Dentistry. Dentistry in Nigeria is quite the skill sector. The skill set within Nigeria is top of the range. It's amongst the top in the world. And the advantage is you have a comparative in terms of cost. We have people who come into Nigeria to come and do braces, for the price of ₦1 million between ₦1 million and ₦2 million now. It used to be cheaper than that. And if you compare that to the costs that they have to pay in their own country, say, for example, in the US, something that can cost you $20,000, $30,000. The cost of a flight to Nigeria, doing your procedures and going back, it's a no-brainer. In other sectors as well, things that we do quite well. The Nigerian healthcare personnel are not given the kudos that they should be giving. Yeah, a lot of things happen. We hear stories, and nobody's denying that. But a lot of positive things are also happening within the sector, and people know that, and people come in. And like I said before, you have hospitals like Evercare, Lagoon, and Co., who service not just Nigeria, but also the West African subsector. People fly in to come and to come and avail themselves of the healthcare there and go back. It's cheaper than them flying all the way to the US, flying all the way to England, flying all the way to Saudi, flying all the way to South Africa. I mean, I am within the medical tourism business, especially in terms of organizing. One of my fields is arranging for patients to go abroad, and I find that I've seen business has gone down because of people using Nigeria. So it's true. It could be more, but definitely positive things are going on there as well.
Maybe, doctor, you should, rejig your business structure and start arranging people coming into Nigeria for medical service.
I'm doing it. I'm already doing it. I was just giving that as an example, that to just show you the transition that has occurred over the last decade, where we're doing a lot, people were going away a lot, and now you have that reduced because people are seeing alternatives. There is not just about the cost, because at the end of the day, you don't want to save money and still go and,
hurt yourself,
to put it in quotation here, to hurt yourself. But people can see that there are viable alternatives in Nigeria, and they're availing themselves of it. And so it's an acknowledgement of the reality that's going on. People who are in that sector can tell you that it's true. It's been a struggle. It's not easy, but you have to give kudos to those people who have built those businesses, who have built those models. They're trying their best.
So does it mean that we have overcome the personnel and skills shortage? I remember then when a lot of medical personnel were jackpying, and that was the source of worry for us in the country.
No, well, I wouldn't say that we have. What we're saying is that there's been an improvement, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. A lot of investment that needs to be done. That's why I'm happy about PVAC. It's not just about the manufacturing aspect of the healthcare sector, but it's also about the clinical aspect of the healthcare sector. We need to invest more in our hospitals. We need to invest more in our clinics. We need to invest more in the service provision. So we need to change attitudes, that kind of thing. So those things are still there. We're not over it, but it's good to see that there is intentionality from this government to give support to these sectors. As you know from doing this show every day, things are going on in the country. A lot of new projects are going on. We're still waiting to see the outcomes of it, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it. And that said a lot from me, because it's been a while since I've been cautiously optimistic about things. So I think, though at the moment it's going to take a bit of time for us to see momentum, but I feel that definitely if I compare to 10 years ago to now, even 4 years ago to now, I can tell you that a lot of things are going on, and I'm happy about it.
Would you say these things have also spread down to the primary healthcare structure?
As you know, the primary healthcare structure is mainly public sector. That is a different situation. There's some work going on. Policy changes are going on. I'm aware that the coordinating minister, has put in some new policies, new changes, some new investments in the primary healthcare sector. Just like that, these are investments that have been a long time coming. We are waiting to see how it is, but it's good that this is happening. One expects to see improvements and progress, but like you said, you have had already a lot of damage done to the sector, especially at the primary healthcare level, for years and years. A lot of investment needs to go in, but it's good to see, once again, I'm going to use that, I use that term deliberately, intentionality, progress going on. So we expect to see some improvement there, but definitely a lot of work needs to be done there if we're going to bring ourselves up to the standards which Nigerians expect, Nigerians demand, and which is appropriate for a country, a middle-income country of 230 million people.
Yeah, and one thing that you said when immediately I talked about the primary healthcare sector is, it's publicly run, and we know that for private sector driven by the drive for profitability, that's a huge incentive. So I wonder what innovations can be introduced, or perhaps we should wait and see, since you said the minister is already introducing some new things there, incentives that could drive, maybe not investment because it's more of social project, but at least can drive life to that sector, because that's closest to the people.
Yeah, you're right. Like I said, the minister has introduced some new policies there. One of the first things that need to be done, which, from what I'm told, that's happening, is increased manpower. There's a huge shortage of manpower within that subsector of the public healthcare. That's happening. Investment in the facilities. But you know that Nigeria is a very diverse area. Logistics are difficult. Able to manage it from the center is difficult. There needs to be a bit of flexibility going on there at the same time, and also the need for standards going on there. But as we know, a lot of things are being done. I also know the minister is talking about digitization. That will assist in a lot of things. It can take care of a lot of problems. But so we wait for, let's see what the outcomes will be in terms of what the policies are. You can already see some of the changes, there are improvements already, but we'll wait and see.
All right, we'll wait and see, but at least we do have some good news. I mean, speaking with you today and with a stakeholder from the private sector, that some positive things are being recorded in the health sector. I mean, that's good news. We hardly have such. So we thank God for it and look forward to more. Thank you so much for your time on the program, Dr. Nicholas Odifran, former Chief Physician to the Vice President of Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Away from health now, Nigeria and Liberia are turning diplomatic ties into business opportunities. Well, the first ever Nigeria Trade and Investment Forum was opened. It's a new platform for investors, manufacturers, SMEs, and government leaders to connect, collaborate, and explore fresh economic partnership. Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, was represented there, and it was a full meeting for all.
A new chapter in Nigeria-Liberia economic relations begins in Lagos as political and business leaders gather for the maiden Nigeria Trade and Investment Forum. Opening the forum, the Honorary Consul of Liberia in Lagos, Mr. Dapo Akionshu, highlights the need to transform long-standing ties into practical results.
Our membership of ECOWAS and the African Continental Free Trade Area gives us a much wider market. Our task at this forum is to combine these advantages with capital enterprise, technology, and disciplined execution.
Liberia's Foreign Minister, Sarah Inyati, representing President Joseph Boakai, outlines the vision behind the gathering, stronger partnerships and shared opportunities.
We work with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the National Investment Commission, who are the ones implementing these various activities around the world, can have a space to dialogue, to engage, and to forge partnerships that will be mutually beneficial to both populations. That's what this is about.
Under the theme, Building Bridges for Shared Prosperity, Liberia's Commerce and Industry Minister, Magdalene Dagose, reaffirms the country's commitment to deeper collaboration with Nigeria in key sectors of mutual interest.
Nigeria experiences in entrepreneurship, manufacturing, finance, and private sector development can work hand in hand with Liberia's strategic location. Natural resources and emerging business opportunities together, we can build stronger industries, increase trade, create jobs, and improve the lives of our citizens.
Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, represented by the Managing Director of Tafawa Balewa Square Commercial Services, says the forum is a platform to turn friendship into real business opportunities.
Our mandate today is to create real, value-added industrial partnerships that generate competitive jobs for our youth and build manufacturing capacity across our borders.
With trade between both countries still below potential, the forum seeks to unlock new investments, create bankable deals, and strengthen economic cooperation under the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA.
All right, now let's shift gears and talk about corporate governance. I mean, recently, especially from the Chartered Institute of Directors, they've just been hitting me with conversations around corporate governance. They have a summit coming on and all of that now. So let's settle on this corporate governance. They say it's to ensure that companies are transparent in their operations, decision-making processes, and financial reporting. And this transparency is supposed to help prevent fraud, corruption, hold management accountable for their actions, and promote ethical conduct throughout the organization. The four fundamental pillars of corporate governance are supposed to be accountability, transparency, fairness, and responsibility. Recently, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria also inculcated this into their conversation. It says for sustainability and to attract investment. So let's understand this, and at the heart of it is the company secretary. Do you have a company secretary in your organization? They work it. What are they drinking up? Well, we'll speak to one right here in the studio, the Group Company Secretary of Nestle Oil Group, Ms. Folashade Akimushire. Yes. Akimushire. Okay, I was practicing well. Yes. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Corporate governance conversation at first seemed like it's far off, you know, the way corporate social responsibility used to be. But now, conversations are bringing it to the heart of business sustainability. Yeah. Perhaps you should help us to understand, starting with that, the essence of having corporate governance conversations and intentions in companies.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll start by saying that generally, corporate governance deals with how organizations, institutions are governed, how they're controlled, and how they're held accountable. And why would you want to hold an organization accountable? Why would you want to hold an institution, whether it be it in the private or public domain sector, accountable? Very simple, to continue the confidence that your stakeholders have in you. Because if your stakeholder trust is eroded, then there's very little that you can achieve. Number one, your reputation goes down. Suppliers don't want to deal with you. Your employees don't even want to work with you. You're not able to access finance. You're not able to stay sustainable in the long term. So I'm sure a lot of investment goes into organizations, institutions. But are we looking at it in the short term or in the long term? Of course, when you're making profits, you're declaring dividends around quarters, first quarter, second quarter, first year, second year. How do you see yourself in the next 50 years? So one thing that holds you and ensures that you're sustainable in the long term is having a governance model called corporate governance that ensures that the interests of all stakeholders are adequately and ethically provided for. And going to the role of the Company Secretary, the Company Secretary is deemed and is defined by the Code of Nigerian Corporate Governance as the custodian of governance. Yeah, it might look the other way around. You expect that your directors are your policy makers, your decision makers, but the Code of Corporate Governance by Chapter 8 is very clear. The Company Secretary has that responsibility to hold them accountable, has to check them, has to ensure that their decisions and strategies are set lawfully, because the moment you exclude that and you're not making lawful decisions, you're not making lawful strategic objectives for your organization, the legitimacy of your business will be eroded.
So the company secretary is supposed to be like the HOD of the corporate governance department.
Certainly.
So that means the qualification and qualities of the individual has to be very well checked. And I say that because in this part of the world, there are so many sentiments. There's the chairman, there's the MD, there's the CEO, and then someone who has been employed as a company secretary is supposed to have the guts to tell the chairman, this is not, I want you to picture the reality of it in our culture.
In our culture.
Who is paying your salary?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So that takes us back again to the Code of Corporate Governance, which specifically provides for the appointment of the Company Secretary. The Company Secretary can or should have the gravitas of a director, in the sense that you should have the qualification, you should have the experience, you should have the knowledge. And the code provides, those that can be Company Secretaries. Number one, you can be a legal practitioner, or you can be a member, a qualified member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. And trust me when I say that there's a whole lot. You write an exam to become a chartered secretary. It's not just, I just want to be. There are exams. You're properly schooled. You're properly, educated to take that role. And the Code of Corporate Governance goes further to say that in appointing a company secretary, even if you are an employee, that employment and that appointment has to be done by the board. So the board has to properly scrutinize. The process has to be the same process that goes into appointing a board director. So they understand that you must have the gravitas, you must have the guts, sincerely, you must have that voice. So for me, that is why I keep insisting, and I recently just authored a book and I spoke about the audacity of the Company Secretary, understanding your role, understanding your importance. You are a secret to the board. Yes, you're behind, you're supporting, you're enabling, but I think it's high time we give the Company Secretary more voice. You understand, to ensure that don't just sit on the board and take the notes, don't just sit and nod. You need to have that courage. You must develop the balls to say, section so and so says this, ethical standard says this. We have a public policy now going to the public institutions that says this. We cannot appoint this way. We cannot procure this way. Respectfully, as it may be, quietly as it may be. But like I always say, the company secretary is a quiet influencer. You influence quietly through your chairman, through your directors. And if you need to really speak up, then you must speak up. So
that means the job or the position of the company secretary must have a lot of backing. You know, because if you get on the wrong side of the chairman, the chairman can decide, get the person fired. So where is the backing? Where is the protection that will give them that
audacity? Yes. So I'll take you to the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Section 330, 332. It provides for that. It says that the company secretary is an independent and mandatory officer. You know, I've given you the gravitas already. You're not just a staff. You're an officer of the organization. And when you go even to the Corporate Affairs Commission, every time there's an infraction and a director will be penalized, they don't just penalize your director. They also penalize your company secretary. So you know that your head will be on the table if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be supporting. You're supposed to be supporting. You're not making the rules, but you must support to ensure that the rules, the decisions, the strategies are ethical. You have that responsibility. You have that responsibility.
You know, from what you're saying, it sounds like we have a long way to go.
Yes.
Really implementing it.
I tell you,
in this country.
I kid you
now,
not.
looking at the public sector, is that the secretary to the federal government, or is that the secretary, the company secretary? You know, when we
so when we cross over to the public domain, yes, certainly. Certainly. That's the same rules apply. The same corporate governance principles apply, whether it's a public institution or whether it's a private institution. So certainly even the same rules apply to company secretaries or secretaries of boards or secretaries to the federal government or any parastatal as it may be. You have that check responsibility and you must take it seriously.
So I pardon me if I sound somehow, but I'm a Nigerian. Does it mean that those who can successfully carry out these roles must be mature people? You know, because I can imagine a young person being a company secretary and having to stand up to all the culture and sentiments and powers that, is around the executive and the directorate and the board. I can't really fathom it being realistic when I see,
Okay, so for me, I don't think it's a function of your age. It's a function of your experience, and it's also a function of you understanding your role and your responsibilities.
Is it about you understanding, or the company and the executive being ready to subject, you understand, the structure and the runnings, to what it's supposed to be? Because I think it has to be true. Or else people start losing their jobs.
Well, people won't lose their jobs. People won't lose their jobs if they do exactly what company secretaries are meant to do. Beyond your administrative, your secretarial, and your strategic role, you also have a responsibility to ensure that your board are properly resourced. Your boards are evaluated. You have a responsibility to ensure that there's continuing education, identifying the gaps within your board. So if you have a responsible board, and if you are an exceptional company secretary, so there's a difference between a company secretary and one who is exceptional. Exceptional in the sense that you understand your independent role, you understand that you have a responsibility to speak up. The law has empowered you. So find your voice. You don't even find the voice. The voice has been given to you. It's a function of you taking that voice and working with it.
Can a company secretary sue if he or she feels it's been unduly, undermined or sacked?
I wouldn't say, well, that's a labor law issue that we'll deal with, at another time. But for me, I always advise, if you feel that you're not able to provide the value that you should, if your voice is constantly being cut off, you can find another job.
Reality in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Folashade.
Thank you so much for having me.
Group Company Secretary at Nest Oil.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And for telling us all of that.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll go global. Please stay with us. All right. time to go global now. We start from the United States. They've launched a fresh round of military strikes on Iranian targets, escalating tensions in the Middle East, escalating tensions right there and raising concerns over regional stability. The attacks come as commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a key route for nearly a fifth of the world's oil trade, continues to decline amid security concerns. And analysts are warning that prolonged disruptions could tighten global energy supplies. We've already seen that in the price of oil and push up prices and add fresh pressure to inflation worldwide. And Cathy Wood's Arts Invest is reshaping its investment portfolio with a renewed focus on advanced energy technologies. The firm has reduced its holdings in biotechnology company Atai Life Sciences while increasing its stake in nuclear technology firm X Energy. The move signals growing investor confidence in next-generation nuclear power as governments and businesses seek reliable, low-carbon energy solutions to meet rising electricity demand. And just before we leave the United States, correspondent in the U.S., Maria Bird, tells us how the market fared yesterday.
The market had a challenging day on Thursday as the Dow Jones was down at 0.2%. The S&P 500 was also down at 0.5%. And the heavy tech Nasdaq led the day down at 1.5%. As many investors were a bit surprised by the AI boom and also the earnings reports that were released. This did cause a bit of concern for how the U.S. will respond in the coming days and weeks ahead, specifically as the tension with the U.S. and Iran continues, as this will have an impact on the U.S. economy over the days and weeks to come.
Minister Sinai Takaichi is calling that the country's government pension investment fund, which is the world's largest pension fund, to increase investments in domestic assets. She argues that directing more capital into Japanese companies and infrastructure would strengthen economic growth, support innovation, and improve national competitiveness. The comments come as policymakers look for new ways to stimulate long-term investment and economic resilience. She says that with the stock market continuing to reform solidly, she believes it is important to pursue measures that encourage households and pension funds, including Government Pension Investment Fund, to further increase their investment in Japanese financial assets. Still in Japan, government says that decisions on monetary policy should remain in the hands of the Bank of Japan, reaffirming the central bank's independence. The statement comes as markets closely watch the BOJ's next steps following its gradual shift away from years of ultra-loose monetary policy. Officials say fiscal policy and monetary policy must work together while respecting the central bank's role in managing inflation and financial stability. Still in Japan, core inflation is expected to slow further, with economists forecasting a 1.6% annual increase in June. That's for the consumer prices. The anticipated moderation suggests underlying price pressures remain contained, despite higher wages and previous policy adjustments by the Bank of Japan. The inflation reading will be closely monitored by investors for clues on whether the central bank is likely to maintain or adjust its current policy stance. Close to Japan, Chinese AI pioneer Moonshot started a model that performs on par with some of the top-tier platforms from OpenAI and Anthropic PBC, which is the latest sign that the Asian countries' artificial intelligence labs are closing a technology gap with the United States. Moonshot released the Kimi K3 today, touting benchmarks comparable to some of the U.S. lab's best offerings. The open-weight model outperforms all rivals except Anthropic's Cloud Fable 5 and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 on overall capacity. Away from Asia or around there, Malaysia has reported a surprise surge in economic growth in the second quarter as robust services and electronics exports countered the impact of the war in the Middle East. Gross domestic products rose 5.8% in the 3 months through June from a year earlier. This is according to advanced estimate from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, beating the 5.2 median prediction in our survey. In the first 3 months of 2026, the economy grew 5.4%. And Volvo car CEO is pushing back on Navarro's pirate China comments. Volvo Car AB Chief Executive Hakan Samuelson is defending the company's operations in China after criticism from U.S. trade advisor Peter Navarro, who described Chinese manufacturing practice as piracy. The CEO says Volvo operates under global standards and remains committed to fair competition and innovation. The exchange highlights growing geopolitical tensions as global automakers navigate trade disputes and shifting industrial policies between China and the United States. Those are the global news for now. Those are the global stories, and now that's it on Business Morning. Thank you so much for being a part of our 55 minutes of going around the world of business. Well, it's not over 1:30, that's in a couple of hours. I'll be back for what's going on, especially from Africa and the market. That'll be during Business Incorporated. I'm John Mekwa. I'll see you then.